Hi, for our first SpriteKit demo, we're just going to set up the view controller to present a SpriteKit scene. So what I've got here is a single view application, and the first step, there are about 8 steps just to set things up correctly. So I'm going to take you through step by step to get a scene that is empty into a SpriteKit view and then go from there. So the first step is to import the SpriteKit framework. So we can do that right here in the General tab of the project properties. Just go down here, scroll, and add, and then we can just start typing SP and grab the SpriteKit.framework and add it to our project. In our next code 5, it puts it where it should be, right here in the frameworks group. So now the second step is going to be to import that in our view controller's header. So we'll import, whoops, we need to import it correctly, SpriteKit, SpriteKit.h, so that we can use that. And if you forget what these are, remember that before the slash, it's the framework name. After the slash, it's the actual header file. So we can go down here into frameworks, and the named header file that's named the same as the SpriteKit framework itself will be the header file that we need to import. So it's right there. The third step is going to be to change in the storyboard our views class, underlying class, to an SK view rather than a UI view. So let's go ahead and do that. SK view right there. So now when the app loads, it will present a SpriteKit view. So that's very important. And then the fourth step is to go ahead and make some changes in view.did_load so that we get the view and then enable some diagnostics on the view. Diagnostics are very important in SpriteKit. So we'll get rid of this comment, and then we'll comment in exactly what we're doing as we go. So the first thing is we want to get the view as an SK view. So we'll have to cast self.view to get that. So SK view, and of course we could do this by overriding the getter, but we'll just call this main view is equal to, and then we cast self.view as an SK view. So SK view self.view. And then we want to enable some diagnostics. So the 3 diagnostics that we usually enable are the draw count, the node count, and the frame per second indicator. So these will all show up in the lower right hand corner of our view. So the first thing is main view dot draw count. Shows draw count right there. Set that to yes. Sorry about that. If I could type, it would be better. And then we'll just, let's see, we'll do that and that. And then the second is going to be node count. This is going to be the number of nodes that is in our scene. And then the third is going to be the frames per second. So there we go. So this is kind of the very first thing that we do with the view. And remember, if we don't import SpriteKit.h, we don't get any of this. So that's very important. Now, we have an SK view. What else do we need? We need an SK scene. So let's go ahead, and this will be the root of our node tree. So let's go ahead and create a new SK scene. It's an Objective-C class of type SK scene. We'll type that here. And let's just call this demo scene, for example. And then we'll create that scene. Now, for now, we don't need to do anything with demoscene.h or demoscene.n. This is a subclass of scene, of SKScene, and it will act appropriately. So let's go back into the view controller, and the next step is to import the demo scene so that we can add it to our SKView. So there we go. And now, view.load is when the view controller's view is loaded but has not yet appeared. We don't want to add the scene until the view appears. So we'll override view.appear, or I'm sorry, we'll override view.will.appear, and that returns void. View.will.appear, animated. And then, the first thing we always do in these methods is call up to super. So super view.will.appear. And then we can just start typing animated because that's what we're passing in. And then we need to get the screen size of our device. This particular scene and a lot of high-level scenes are going to be the same size as your screen. So we'll need to get that, and that's going to be a CG size. And we'll just call it screen size. And we'll set it to the size of the bounds of the main screen. So UI screen, main screen, and then bounds, bounds size. So there we go. Now we've got the size of the main screen. We need to make a new demo scene. And I'm putting these comments in so you'll know exactly what to do step by step. But we need to set its size to screen size. Now, when we make the scene, we'll have an init with size initializer. So demo scene, and we'll call this main scene, or let's just call it demo scene. We'll keep it simple. Equals, and then we'll allocate it. And then we'll use init with size. And then let's just use our screen size. We could all do this in one step, but this looks a little bit better. And then we want to get the view as an SK view. And that's going to be the same sort of code here. And again, if you're doing a lot of this view getting, really this is the only place you really need to get the view. But if you're doing it a lot, I would override the getter to return an SK view. But let's just go ahead and do that. And then we're going to present the scene inside the view. And that is as simple as calling the present scene method on the main view. So what scene are we presenting? Demo scene. That's right. So that's it. That's all we have to do to get this thing started. So now let's save everything, and we'll go ahead and run it and see if we did anything wrong. That's it. So we have our demo scene presented, or SK scene presented inside our SK view, and we see that 0 nodes have been drawn. There are 0 draw count, and we're hovering. If I leave the mouse alone and don't do a lot of other stuff right now, this will climb to about 60 frames per second and stay right around that value. And then the more I do inside my scene, the lower my frame rate will get. So frame rate is very important, and this diagnostic information while you're debugging your app is also very important. Okay, so this is just how we set it up and get it running. Thank you very much.